I'm Judy Robinson and I'm from Barringwood Park Vineyard, located in the central north of Tasmania. Barringwood Park is a boutique vineyard, family owned and operated. We only have about 5 hectares of vines planted, and we have those planted out to 5 cool climate varieties. So we've got here 6 of our wines. We actually produce 7 different wines, but at the moment we've sold out of one of those. So we've got 6 wines here today. Being a cool climate area like we are here on the central north coast, we have to be fairly careful in what we plant out in our vineyard. We have to know that we can ripen the fruit to produce good quality wines. The main red for us in this area, as it is for the rest of Tasmania, Pinot Noir. Pinot Noir has been a very successful variety for Barringwood Park over the last 5 to 6 years. Our flagship Pinot is Mill Block, and we've won several trophies and gold medals with this wine since the 2003 vintage, not only at Tasmanian wine shows but at wine shows on the mainland. Our second Pinot Noir label, which I don't have here today because we've sold out of it, is our Forest Raven. They're 2 very different Pinots. The Forest Raven is our earlier release Pinot, drink younger style, whereas our Mill Block, as I mentioned before, our flagship Pinot, a bit more cellaring potential, takes a bit longer for it to evolve into the wine that it showed.
That it will be.
Yeah, exactly. Another cool climate variety for us is our Chardonnay. And this particular Chardonnay from the 2008 vintage we're particularly pleased with. We've done some interesting winemaking with this wine. We always like to let our fruit do the talking as much as we can. Our wines are wines grown in the vineyard, but with a little bit of assistance from our winemaker this year, I think this wine has been crafted into something a little bit special. We've used some natural ferment and a little bit of fresh oak, and this wine is showing a lot of potential, even though it's extremely young. It's only been bottled for 2 months. Chardonnay and Pinot Noir are useful varieties for us because not only do we make table wines from these, but we blend these together to make our sparkling. Here's our sparkling here, which we call IJ. Because we can't use the term champagne anymore, but it is that champagne style, bottle fermented, we have our name on the label being IJ. These are the initials of the owners of the vineyard, myself and my husband, Ian and Judy. But with the silver I and the black J on the label, these are actually referring to the 2 birds that cause us the biggest problem during vintage. The little silver I and the big greedy black J are the ones that our grapes are most under threat from. We do have to net our vines always because we're a small vineyard with a lot of native bush not far away. But despite the netting, we have these tenacious birds still determined to get as much of the fruit as they can. We did think if we named a wine after them, they might leave us alone. It hasn't actually worked out, but we've still kept our IJ label. The third variety we actually have in our sparkling is our Pinot Meunier. So about 10% Pinot Meunier in our blend for our sparkling. We don't actually produce a sparkling every year. About every second year we'll allocate fruit for it, or just when the season seems to be a good one for sparkling fruit. Some years being lower yielding, we may need to keep all of our fruit for our table wines, which over the last few years have been selling out, and so we don't always have surplus fruit to put into sparkling. This year, 2009, we're definitely putting extra fruit in. 2004 was a big year for sparkling fruit, and 2007. So this Pinot Meunier is a useful variety for us, another cool climate variety, and interestingly it actually has a longer documented history as a still red table wine in Australia than Pinot Noir. There are vines planted in Victoria that are well over 100 years old, and wines still being made from those vines. But our vines are nowhere near that old. Our earliest plantings of that variety, as in all of our varieties, is 1993. So for the last couple of years we've actually been producing a rosé from Pinot Meunier. Some years we produce this variety as a still red, a lighter style table wine, a dry red. Pinot Meunier, we did that in 2003 and 2004, we've done it again in 2008. That wine is just been bottled and we'll be releasing that in a couple of months' time. But as I said, we've been making a rosé which has proved extremely popular. Rosés having made a bit of a comeback over the last few years. a very popular style for summer drinking. Our two other varieties, which we have over here, are Pinot Gris and Schönberger. Pinot Gris would be more well known than the lesser known and fairly rare Schönberger. Pinot Gris is very popular as a restaurant wine. It's got some lovely fruity characters. It's aromatic but not too over the top in aromatics. We tend to make it dry because it's a food wine. It's a perfect match with Asian style cuisine and your richer seafoods in particular. So Pinot Gris seems to do very well at this site, and we've produced some really good Pinot Gris, our first vintage for this variety being 2002, when it was still a fairly new variety for Tasmanian vineyards to be producing. People would come into Celador and be quite surprised that it was a white wine and not a red. They just got the hang of Pinot Noir, and then we started throwing the two Pinot Gris at them. They're very comfortable with it now. We really ripen this fruit out and make a lovely, rich, like a voluptuous white wine, but a beautiful food wine. And the last one we have here is Schönberger, and as I did mention, it's quite an unusual variety. It is a cool climate specialty. Not a lot of it grown in Australia, and probably most of it would be grown in Tasmania, and there's only a handful of vineyards here producing this style. This is an aromatic, fruity white, even a little bit floral. And we make it off-dry in style, just matching the palate to the nose. It actually smells like it's going to be really sweet. It's not as sweet as it smells, but it is quite luscious, dangerously drinkable, and a lovely wine to have with your spicier foods. Perfect match with a Thai green curry. This we find is really popular at Celador. It's something a little bit different, and people looking for a wine, maybe just not too dry, and something special that they can take home to friends. The Schönberger fits the bill. So from the 5 varieties we have planted in our vineyard, we have 7 wines, only 6 at the moment as I mentioned, but we'll soon we'll have 8 with the dry red Meunier out and about.
Okay.